When Jhery Brown, the popular NFL loctician with a growing clientele from the National Football League, isn't running her local business, the entrepreneur uses her salon's social gathering space to promote self-empowerment, entrepreneurship, and the natural hair movement's impact on mental health and cultural acceptance. For this episode, we grabbed a few journalists from the Palm Beach Post to join Brown for a discussion on the unique personal and professional challenges of going natural. The natural hair movement, which started by women of African descent, exists to challenge the social stigma surrounding Afro-textured hair. Since you all navigate workspace, school, and other public spaces, what do you think about the natural hair movement? What does it mean to you?
For me, it means solidarity with my other sisters because there's a lot of colorism that separates us in a lot of different spaces. So for someone to have created, well, for us as a group to have created the natural hair movement, for me, it means that we get to come closer together in that.
For me, it means union. It's like for all of us to be able to have a talking piece amongst each other, for us to be able to discuss and see other people that look just like us with the type of hair that we have. It's a big deal for everybody to talk about, to me.
The natural hair movement to me is almost like the recognition of the difference in beauty. So we all know the natural hair movement started way before Instagram was thought of, way before Facebook was thought of. I had a big chop when I was in 8th grade, and I think I was on MySpace at that time. But that big chop was inspired by women who were much older than me. So for me, it was a turning point, I think, in society or online when people started recognizing that there was beauty in the natural state of someone's hair.
And for me, like, I agree with Corvaya. I mean, obviously the natural hair movement has been around, for so long, but I feel like for me, it's like it represents progress now because I feel like with the digital platform like Instagram and things like that, there's more people saying like, hey, this is my hair. Right. And people are commenting and they're like, your hair is beautiful. They're like, my hair looks like that too. And I remember even just a few years ago, there was times where, natural hair wasn't accepted. And I'll just tell y'all a quick story. One of my very first jobs, I was working at this clothing store. And like when I first got hired, I had my hair straightened just because I switch it up sometimes. I wear it straight, I wear it curly, whatever. I wore it straight the next day. I came with twists. And they told me as soon as I walked in the door, they said, you can't have your hair like that. They were like, you need to go home. Take it out or go home. Wow. And guys, like y'all know we pay money to get our hair done. Right. So I was like, I just paid $65 for my hair and I'm not about to take this out. So clearly I went home. But I left there feeling embarrassed and hurt because she said it in front of everybody. And it's like, I'm working with other people who don't look like me. Right. And for you to say that in front of everybody, like, oh, you don't belong here. I was like, oh my goodness. So I feel like it represents progress because I think more people are learning more about the hair movement now. So it's good. Yeah.
Right. Now to piggyback on representing progress. We're finally seeing a representation in film and media, shows like Insecure on HBO, Napoli Ever After on Netflix. What are some of the effects that representation has on your mental health? And you can start since you did the big chop.
Well, yes, I have. For me, representation is so important as an Afro-Latina, and I know that you can relate to this, Corvaya, but you have to navigate two spaces because the Black community is saying, well, you have to be Black. And then the Latina community is saying, well, you have to be Latina, and actually you're not Black. What is that? So it's very confusing, right? So as a child, my identity was very fragmented because when I was with my very light-skinned, white Puerto Rican family, it was all about, ¿qué vamos a hacer con este pelo? What are we going to do with this hair? I don't know what to do with it. Let's throw a relaxer in it. When I was with my father, who's a Black Cuban, it was, oh my God, your hair is so beautiful. Do you want braids? Do you want little barrettes and beads? And I was like, yes. So representation is so important. I really wish that I had that when I was a child. It would have saved me a lot of pain and hurt. And it took until my early 20s to really accept who I was and to say, oh, actually, I can be both. And navigate both spaces, and they're not mutually exclusive. So, yeah, it's really important.
I think if there were no movies like Napoli Ever After or no shows like Insecure or no woman like, for example, Issa Rae kind of put into the spotlight and beautified, then it would be much harder on me to make my sister feel comfortable in her own skin, or make my counterparts feel comfortable in their own skin, or, you know, it's hard when you compliment a woman on her natural hair, or you're telling the truth to her and telling her that, you know, I think you're beautiful, and she doesn't believe you because of everything else that's going on. So now with shows like Insecure and movies like Nappily Ever After, it helps me support my sisters, my cousins, my friends, and it's almost like what I'm saying, it's more believable. So it just, without that representation in the media, it would make my responsibility as a woman much harder to make other women feel uplifted and beautiful.
And in terms of feeling uplifted and beautiful, a lot of women are choosing to either have a big chop, have dreads, have relaxers. It's just all about the freedom to do what you want in these spaces. Now, for some controversy. So within a movement, there's still some issues, right? What are your thoughts about certain natural hair brands and campaigns prioritizing certain types of hair, 3C versus 4C, for example? Any thoughts on that?
I feel like usually when, I don't know about y'all, but I'm sure y'all experience the same thing. When you go inside, you know, a store and you see these natural hair products, a lot of times it's like representative of 3C hair, you know, the typical like curly pattern, and people's hair is different. Like I know for me, I'm like a mixture of 3C and I'm a mixture of like 4B. My hair is just all over the place. It's like more kinky in the middle and it's kind of curly on the bottoms. Yes, for the grade of hair. And I feel like it's sad because I had a conversation with my young cousin the other day. She's 7, and she came to me. She was like, Jazz, I'm gonna get my hair permed. I grabbed her hand, I sat her down, and I was like, listen, no. I was like, your hair is beautiful. I took her hair out the bun, I shook it up. I was like, look at all this sauce. I was like, you saucing them and you want to perm your hair? I was like, don't do it. So basically, I feel like if maybe she saw more, you know, people with hair like her and not just a 3C, then she'd be like, oh, I am beautiful. So I'm just glad that, you know, there's folks like us who can tell girls like, you're beautiful, you know?
I agree. And for me, I adorn locks, so I don't see a lot of products that are on shelves that have locks on them at all. There are products, however, when you see them, it's usually someone that has a curly texture of hair. It definitely straight texture of hair, and even if they have a 4C or whatever texture, it's always straightened. So for me to see someone, just the other day, I was just at the Dolphins game and I saw someone with a TWA, a little teeny weeny afro. I was like, oh my gosh. I was so excited. I pulled that phone up as close as I could to her. I'm like, this is what acceptance is now. Like, these cheerleaders are out here doing it with rocking their little small fros and whatnot, and everybody is becoming so much more accepted. Just like she said with her cousin, we're becoming accepted because it's now being accepted just as well. And I think that it's being embraced.
So let's segue to the Dolphins game. Now, you are known as the NFL loctician. You service a lot of NFL players. You actually went to the Super Bowl with Jay Ajayi. What are some of the main concerns that male and female clients have with managing natural hair?
Natural hair, I'm going to tell you, the first thing that they come to me talking about would definitely be moisture. How to retain the moisture in their hair, the upkeep of their hair, what products are they supposed to be using, what products are not good for their hair. And especially like for my NFL players, you know, these are tough guys that are out there running, getting their hair tugged at, but I'm still in the background getting phone calls, man, Miss Jhery, man, my dreadlock fell out. You know, it's like, what do I do right now? I'm not there to fix that, repair at that time. However, I can tell you what products to use to make sure that your hair is kept in the state when I do your hair. So having the correct products, making sure that it's moisturized, making sure that your hair is oiled, making sure that you're using the correct type of shampoo for that texture of hair. That's what's important, and that's what they ask about.
Now, many will argue that progress has a lot to do with entrepreneurship, right? Owning your own businesses and access to information, especially for folks who just aren't, you know, financial literate or whatnot. What are your thoughts on YouTube and the blogging atmosphere in terms of giving you that access to information to, you know, manage your hair? Like, is it filling that information gap, YouTube and blogging?
For me, it has, yes. Just knowing the density of my hair and just knowing how to take care of it, what products would, well, before I did the big chop when I had longer hair. it really helped me just to find out that information. Yeah.
Again, it makes it, you know, coming up, getting my hair done, same story as Jacque. My mother, who's very Puerto Rican, would really get frustrated with my hair, get tired of doing it, or break her nails doing it, or break her comb doing my hair. And so we both kind of agreed on a relaxer. We did that and made my hair more manageable. With the relaxer, I realized my hair was breaking and I wasn't keeping it up, and it wasn't healthy. And so I tried different things. So me coming up doing my hair was all trial and error. This was before YouTube, before I had access to information. So I think the blogging and the YouTube does give us access to information. I think it just makes it easier for me to educate the younger women in my life on how to not only love themselves, but how to manage their hair and take care of themselves. I can send them a link versus trying to convince them that this works. Yeah. You know, when it comes to our hair, in order for it to really retain moisture, it takes time. It means deep conditioning your hair once a week and not seeing results until 3 months from now. It's nothing is instant. And so the access to the internet and the access to the information it just makes my job easier. But going back to the brands that we see in stores and on YouTube, you know, through sponsorships and things like that, I'm gonna keep it 100% real. If I walked into an audition today as Corvaya for a natural hair commercial or a natural hair product or a natural hair brand, this brand could be very well made for someone with very thick, coarse, kinky hair. Right. Marketing wise, but the language that is used, is going to be so deceiving. So you might find a product on the shelf at a beauty supply for thick, coarse, kinky hair, but the woman on the front looks like me and has my curl texture. So you have women with light hair, soft hair, with looser curls buying products that are too thick, that are too heavy. And then you have women who have coarser hair or thicker hair buying products that are not good for them because they're just not buying the right products, or they're staying away from the products that are good for them because the faces on these products don't look like them. So although we've come a long way, there are still Black brands and Black business owners and all kinds of entrepreneurs who are still having to live up to this standard that society has created. So no, we're not afraid to put Black women on the front of products anymore, but she's still lighter, right? She still has a nicer texture of hair. And you know, we're taking steps toward Black is beautiful. But you know, when a brand puts a woman who is your complexion, Jhery, on a product, it's a huge deal. Right.
The
fact that it's a
yes.
Yes.
Absolutely.
They never have, just like what I was saying earlier, they never have locks, and they're definitely not my complexion. You know, you usually don't see a dark-skinned woman on the front of a product. You usually don't see, unless that person is famous, you're absolutely right, you don't see a dark-skinned woman on the front of a product. So I totally agree.
Progress,
yes.
And we're stepping into where we need to be, but we're not there yet. I love the bloggers. I love women showing me what they do with their hair. But unless you have exactly the same texture hair as I do, it's not helpful.
Yeah, right. I completely agree. And I feel like, you know, like Corvaya was saying, it misleads women. And it's so sad because there's so many women who are like putting wrong products on their hair because they're like, oh, I want my hair to look like hers. But it's like everybody exactly, it's not gonna end up like that. Yeah, it's not gonna happen. And there's nothing wrong with that because everybody, to me, I feel like natural hair, what the natural hair movement is about is everybody's natural hair is beautiful. It doesn't matter whether you're 3C, 4B, because I have friends, you know, who come to me and they're like, Jazz, like, you could do that with your hair. And I'm like, what? I'm like, my hair is not even naturally curly, girl. I need to braid this down. So I'm like, it's different for everybody. And I feel like if you're using those products that aren't made for you, it's making you feel, because after you put those products in your hair and you're like, okay, I'm gonna wake up like this, and then your hair doesn't look like that, and now you feel
versus reality.
Yes, like the memes, exactly. Expectations versus reality, and then you feel like, well, am I ugly? What's wrong with me? Why doesn't my hair look like that? And it's like, no, you just need this creamier product, or you need this, you know, this wet product, or whatever you might need. So I just feel like, I think as a culture and as a society, we need to move forward with representing people of all different skin tones.
And with that said, that's where we come back to local entrepreneurship, because we do have little pockets and communities and green markets where we have women and men who are creating their own products that actually do work for different types of hair. So we need to support each other and spread the word.
Now, it seems like, obviously hair doesn't define you, right? You are more than your hair. That's what I've gathered. And you've navigated professional and personal spaces really well. And obviously we have this entrepreneurship movement that's happening right now, especially since we're in your space, Jhery. So I'll end the conversation with you, obviously. So for folks who want to navigate or who want to aim for personal and professional growth, but are afraid to do it with their natural hair, are afraid of that stigma. What are your thoughts on, I guess, giving that advice?
I would tell them to just don't be afraid to do something that feels right to you. Change is hard for everyone. However, if you can embrace your beauty, just like what Corvaya was saying and Jazz, both of them, they have a texture of hair that is sometimes not controllable to someone, but someone like myself can bring that to the state that you want it in. And then for someone that has a texture of hair like Jacque, we all have got to embrace what we have. So don't make it where you're listening to everybody else. You have to make sure that you're confident within yourself. I rocked a bald fade, just like a male's haircut, from 1993 until 2001, and then I started my locks. And as a flight attendant, it wasn't accepted. Locks were not accepted at that time. So now when I'm on my aircraft, I have people that stop me and say, oh my gosh, I saw you 5 years ago. I remember you because of your locks. That just happened to me just a couple of days ago in the airport. So, I'm in my uniform, in a completely different uniform, but that person still remembered me because of my hair. So I would just say, accept yourself first. Make sure that you are confident within yourself, and make sure that you're not listening to everyone else about your beauty. If you're beautiful, you're beautiful. And I can tell you that you're beautiful and accept it. And you can tell me that you're beautiful and accept it. And all of us can walk together with a stride and be like, girl, I am beautiful. That's me. I'm accepting. Yes. So I think that that's the best thing. Self-acceptance is what I would definitely tell someone to strive for.